Joining us now is John Brennan, the former director of the Central Intelligence Agency. He's an MSNBC senior national security and intelligence analyst. He's the author of the best-selling Undaunted, My Fight Against America's Enemies at Home and Abroad. John, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. I want to pick up where Janice left off. This was probably not an accident. You can't really generally get a balloon to hover over Montana above 60,000 feet where you're actually legally able to be there at an accident. It's probably not a civilian weather balloon. But in the end, there is something here that China does not want to risk, and that is the ire of America. So what's your evaluation of where we stand right now?
Well, Ali, I think as Janice mentioned, I think there's still a lot that we don't know, and we shouldn't presume to know more than we do so far. Some big questions still about what were the Chinese thinking when they sent this balloon over the United States. It clearly was intended to traverse U.S. airspace, but who was responsible for launching this, and was it fully coordinated at the highest levels of the Chinese government? But also, we're still waiting to find out what were the technical capabilities of this balloon, and that's why the retrieval effort is underway to try to see what type of technical equipment it had in terms of technical collection capabilities as far as signals intelligence, imagery. And so I think we're learning a lot more, but it's clear that the Chinese rhetoric in terms of its pushback against the shoot-down was very typical and expected. And now the big question is how we're going to deal with the situation going forward, because I don't think that the United States certainly doesn't want to have the situation escalate. There are a lot of issues that we need to deal with China on. And I do not believe that the Chinese leadership, Xi Jinping, wants this to escalate either, unless, again, this was an intentional provocation. But again, it's very unfortunate that Secretary Blinken's trip had to be postponed. I think it was the prudent step to take. But now we need to figure out exactly what were the Chinese thinking, what this capability was that was on the balloon, and our engagement with the Chinese, I think, is going to be critically important in the coming days. I know the United States right now is working with our allies and partners around the globe to marshal support, because we certainly was within our rights to shoot this down in our airspace, and it was a violation of our sovereignty in terms of what this balloon did. So again, we'll find out more in the coming days and weeks as far as the impact that this is going to have on the U.S.-China relationship going forward.
And obviously, because it was a provocative move, America had to do something, and the cancellation of that trip was at least the initial part of the something. But in your analysis, given your expertise at the CIA, how big a deal is this? We know that countries surveil each other. We know that balloons can achieve something satellites can't, right? Because a satellite can't hover. It has to go around, and you have windows of time. That balloon could actually sit over Montana until it got the photos or data that it needed. How big a deal do you think this is?
Well, I guess still it's unclear. As you point out, there are things that a balloon can do. Given that the altitude was only 60,000 feet, that's approximate to Earth, and it can do some things that satellites that are orbiting in space are unable to do from a greater distance. But this clearly was provocative. There's no way that this balloon was not going to be detected by the United States. China had to know that. They knew that we possibly was going to take some action to bring it down. Are they going to risk maybe some advanced technology that they had on that balloon if we are able to retrieve it and understand what the capabilities are? Again, there are a lot of questions. And from my experience being in CIA and the National Security Council meetings, I know that the military and intelligence community right now are trying to determine exactly what was the motivation, the purpose, the capabilities. And with that, they're going to inform President Biden. And President Biden, I think, will then deal with China in an appropriate fashion once we have more understanding about what was the whole purpose of this episode.
There are three imperatives as it relates to China, not many more than three, but there are three major ones right now. Janice mentioned Xi Jinping on his way to Russia, and China has tacitly supported Russia in this war. There's the issue of Taiwan, that China is watching very carefully how the Russian invasion of Ukraine could work out for them if they want to invade Taiwan. And then there's the issue of North Korea. America can't really actively choose to not be engaged in China. So I guess Lincoln's visit was going to be what engagement looks like right now. Let's just sit and talk these things through.
Yes, as you point out, Ukraine, Taiwan, North Korea, but then we have cyber, we have trade, we have a lot of other issues that we have to deal with China. And I know that the administration was looking forward to the opportunity to try to engage with the Chinese in a productive and constructive way and try to avoid any escalation of tension on any of these areas. And so whether or not this was an effort on the part of some within China to derail that meeting, again, is an unknown. And what we have to try to find out is how can we ensure that this episode is not going to cause greater friction in the relationship? Because the U.S.-China relationship is an important one. There are areas of very strong competition. Hopefully, there's not going to be confrontation and conflict, but there are ways that we can de-escalate, but it requires an engagement and constructive diplomacy and dialogue with China that unfortunately this balloon issue is disrupting right now.
John Brennan, good to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us. John Brennan is the former director of the CIA. He's MSNBC's senior national security and intelligence analyst. He's the author of My Fight Against Undaunted, My Fight Against America's Enemies at Home and Abroad.